Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out the final of these brand new 1/18th scale Beasts of the Mesozoic figures, and this time we have another raptor figure. We have the Linheraptor, and this is a very cool one because it's one that I did not have the opportunity to purchase from the larger ones, so I'm actually really psyched to have a Linheraptor to enter into my collection, and of course, one as beautiful as what we see here with a Beasts of the Mesozoic version. I do intend on grabbing the larger one at some point, but I just haven't gotten there quite yet. But you can see as far as the packaging and everything goes, you've got our beautiful figure, the stand, the alternate legs, and then of course the species title right there. And then up here, a really nice image, some nice artwork of the animal itself. And then of course the Beasts of the Mesozoic logo. And then if we turn it around here to the back, you've again got that little area here, that kind of like area you can cut out to create yourself a really cool card with, again, the amazing artwork there. And then you also have the checklist for all of the different figures in this size range that are currently released with this wave. So let's go ahead, pop this out of the box, and check it out. So just like usual, we've got the other plastic pieces in here, you know, the parts that connect to the stand, the little clips and everything to hold the feet. Stuff that we've gone over a few times now with these different Beasts of the Mesozoic 1/18th scale figures. We will, of course, check those out here in a little bit, but the primary, pieces to this puzzle would be, of course, the Beasts of the Mesozoic stand, as well as the alternate legs to our Linheraptor, and of course the figure itself. And man, is that ever striking. Like, I can pretty much instantly tell you that this is my favorite of these 1/18th scale raptor figures, because the color scheme chosen for this and the actual paint application is fantastic. And even though this one was on my list of stuff that I wanted to get when it comes to the Raptor series figures, it honestly wasn't super high up. Like, there are a few that I had above this one prior, but now actually seeing this one here in hand, I may have changed my mind. I may actually have to go ahead and grab this one sooner rather than later. But just like with the others, one thing that I want to do straight away is test the ability for this to stand. And sure enough, even though this isn't exactly the best angle of it currently, we'll go ahead and get a little bit of a better angle. You can see that our Linheraptor is definitely standing, again, free of a base, free of any type of support or stand. So that is always a huge plus, and again, furthering the proof that we don't need supersized feet for our figures to stand, but it absolutely can stand. It was a little trickier than the others, but I think I just had the legs in the wrong spot when I was trying to get it to stand. But again, now that I have it here standing, it looks awesome. And something that I have had so many people in the past ask me to get for my reviews was a turntable. I've had so many people ask me about this over the years, and I finally did. It took me a long time to get a hold of one, so as you can see, we now have the beautiful turntable footage here of our Linheraptor, so you can get a nice view of the entire figure, of course, as it circles around and shows off every ounce of its beauty. But the figure here, again, at first glance, really is quite exquisite as far as the coloration goes. I feel like the colors that David chose for this one are so flashy, so exotic, but so beautiful, and again, look really natural on the figure. Not only the colors themselves, but the actual application of the paint. And considering the size of the figure, I always feel like that is a very impressive aspect for these smaller Raptor series figures. Really, really impressive. So I'm super excited to get a closer look at this one. The very first time I've had the pleasure of checking out a Beasts of the Mesozoic Linheraptor, so let's do that right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Linheraptor, you can see that the sculpt looks very nice, very vibrant, very highly detailed. You've got some nice skin texture as per usual in the snout of our dinosaur. As you lead back, you start to pick up some beautiful feathering, and we have quite a bit of different colors and stuff here in the face. The snout specifically starts with a really nice dark coloration. If my camera would stop going out of focus, you can see it starts out with pretty much a black. You can see the nostrils and everything sculpted out right there. As you start to lead back a little further into the face, you can see some beautiful yellows, really vibrant yellows, kind of striping into that snout. You can also see some nice light greens as well, kind of like almost like a blue-green. You've also got some whites there behind that, and you can see that the black coloration of the snout stripes up and through the eye, and then stripes there back to the back of the head. We have a very nice brown eye, kind of almost like a red-brown, and then we have a black pupil. Really, really small, but beautifully painted, and there's also a nice gloss coat to that area as well. And then as you lead up here to the top of the head, you can see some nice variations of browns included up here on the top of the head of the Linheraptor. And you can also see how gorgeous that feather detail is up there on the top of the head. A little bit different compared to some of the other raptors as far as the way it looks like. We usually start out with some really nice fine feathers in the face, or at least this is how it worked for the Dromaeosaurus and Velociraptor. But then as we lead back, we start to get like some scruffy feathers there in the back of the head and neck area, whereas this time we start out with some pretty decent sized, really nice looking feathers, and then we get some scruffier feathers here in the mid-neck area, kind of leading down into the throat, and it looks really, really cool. You can again see that nice brown up there on the back, and then it transitions quite nicely down here to the color of green that we see there in the face briefly, and it's such a really nice, very, again, exotic coloration as far as the way that this has been painted out and displayed. You can see it looks really nice. Well, you can see if my camera stays focused on it. And then you can again see the brown up here on the back as it starts to taper off as we get into like the mid-back area. You can make out the spinal column a little bit right there. Also leading down into the arms, you of course have that beautiful plumage leading off of the arms, and again, incredible looking feather detail for something so small. Look at how much very fine detail you can see in the feathers of this Linheraptor. Incredibly impressive. And yet again, lots of paintwork as we have the nice brown leading down from the shoulder down into the arm about halfway. We transition back to the green, yet you can still see some browns kind of striping through and also coating the outer edges of the feathers, but we have more greens, and we also have kind of like almost like a light tan or an off-white dry brushing as well, and even some little hints of like either light greens or yellows up there at the top, so just tons of color. And you can also see the undersides of the arm feathers also sport this nice brownish tone, and you can see that there's a lighter brown, then a darker brown down here, but then as we lay out here, we have kind of like an off-white with a brown dry brushing. So again, just tons of color, and you can see that the palms of the hands of our Linheraptor are painted with that same green. You've also got some nicely painted nails with a black, and the black also has a nice gloss coat to it. So just tons and tons of color as always on this Beasts of the Mesozoic figure. As you start to lead back into the stomach region, you can again see how beautiful that feather detail looks here in the stomach region. Maybe a little bit finer of a feathering compared to what we saw up there on the head. You can see it transition to a yellow, really nice bright yellow, but it quickly transitions to a variation of orange here right around the hip region, and then you can see a brown stripe running down the back there of the spinal column. But then leading back down here into the thigh, we transition back again to that really nice green, and again you can see how that feather detail just really pops on the sculpt. It looks super nice. As we lead down into the calf region, again you can see more of that nice feathering, but it transitions to a brown. We continue to have those feathers until we reach down here into the foot. The foot turns into a gray, and you can see a nice skin texture, nicely sculpted toes, beautiful sickle claws. You've also got, again, nicely painted nails with a black, and also has a gloss coat. You've also got dew claws. So you're never going to have anything missed as far as the sculpt or coloration on a Beasts of the Mesozoic figure. On the underside, you can also see that we have a little area of like a white leading up from the underside before transitioning to kind of like a yellowish brown here as we lead out the length of the tail, and then you can see how impressive that plumage is there out the end of the tail. The tail feathers are incredibly nice looking, really flashy looking, but it gets even flashier as you lead up here to the top, because again we have that orangish tone that transitions to a brown, and then as we lead out we get a nice little area of yellow before transitioning to a white, and then you also have some black stripes that run down the course of the tail, just giving such a really nice bird-like flashiness to the coloration of the figure. You can also see more of that green running along the sides, and again just insanely beautiful feather detail on the tail of this Linheraptor. And man, what a gorgeous sculpt, what a gorgeous paint job. This one here I would definitely say is my favorite of these newer Raptor series figures. I'm a huge fan. I think previously I would have said probably the Dromaeosaurus would have been my favorite, because it was definitely one of my favorite of the actual, 1/6 scale Raptor series overall. But man, this thing is just so incredibly beautiful in person. I am just completely in awe of this figure. Of course, we do have an articulated jaw, and I actually forgot to mention the fact that we have a nice pinkish tone there for the inside of the mouth, and the teeth as well are painted really nicely, very realistically, very, very precisely as well. So also very, very smooth articulation in that jaw. And then as you lead back again, a beast of the Mesozoic figure is never complete without a plethora of articulation. So leading back here into the neck, you can see we've got a few different joints leading down the course of the neck, which allows some incredible, really smooth posability for your raptor. Again, you can go up, down, left, right, all over the place. You can completely swivel, I would say, probably if you really chose to. And then, of course, you have the articulation here in the shoulder as well as the elbow and the wrist. So lots of mobility there in the arms of your dinosaur. You also have the midsection articulation, which can go left, right, as well as up and down. And then you have the hip region as well as the knee, which is probably a little stiff. Definitely, it's moving a little bit, but it's definitely a little stiff. And then you have the tail as well, which can go left, right, up, down, and swivel as well. So, as always, lots of articulation for your gorgeous figure. And then we've also got, again, the alternate legs, which are more outstretched, similar to what we've seen on pretty much every one of the other beasts of the Mesozoic 1/18th scale figures this time around. You can see again, they are sculpted beautifully, painted beautifully, very precisely. Yet again, no sloppiness. So when you switch out the legs, if you choose to, it's going to look just as incredible with these legs as it did with the previous legs. And the stand is exactly the same as we've seen, even though it's upside down. But exactly the same as we've seen on the last few. Again, just a clear plastic stand with that really nice Beasts of the Mesozoic logo right there. So let's go ahead, switch the legs out, and check it out from there. And if you haven't seen any of the previous reviews of these figures, also you can articulate the legs this way too. So don't think I really mentioned that. You can also articulate them out away from the body, same with the arms. So there's definitely a lot of posability, again, with your figure. But to switch the legs out, you have the ability to just snap that out. There's a little peg here at the end of this that you would just slide into that spot. And now your raptor has, again, the kind of outstretched leg there, allowing you to have like a jumping pose or something, whatever you would like to. You can also put both legs, having those more outstretched legs, so then it looks like maybe the dinosaur is more at, alert and just kind of standing tall. It's really up to you how you decide to go about that. Of course, I'm going to remove that leg, put this leg back in, and get a size, a measurement here for this appearance to the figure. It's really up to you how you want to get your measurement, because again, you have two different versions. You have a taller version or a regular version, kind of like a crouching version. I always go with this version because it's the way it comes in the package. But again, it's really up to you how you want to measure it when you have your own. But we'll go ahead and move that out of the way. So for a length, you're looking at about 4 inches or 10 centimeters roughly. And then for a height, I'd say about 1.25 inches or around 3 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon next to our Linheraptor. And again, it is so small. Incredibly impressively small. You could probably throw that up into Robert Muldoon's arms and he could hold it like a baby because it is so small. But I really feel like it is so insanely impressive because the sculpt is so good, the paint is so good, so vibrant, and so highly detailed for something this small. But for another comparison, here again is our Linheraptor next to the Protoceratops. Again, giving you an idea as far as how they size up next to each other here. Definitely cool to see these 1/18th scale figures here next to each other. And then for another comparison, there is our Linheraptor next to the Velociraptor, and you can definitely see they are roughly the same size. I would say probably about the exact same size, except the tail feathers on the Linheraptor are a little bit longer, a little bit wider actually, I should say, but definitely very similarly sized, yet quite different looking. It's very interesting how raptors can look so different yet so similar at the same time, and this is a perfect example of that right here with these two face to face. So this brand new 1/18th scale Beasts of the Mesozoic Raptor series Linheraptor is fantastic. Yet again, absolutely beautiful. Again, this sculpt is just as incredible as every other Beasts of the Mesozoic figure you'll ever see. Super, super highly detailed, incredibly crisp detail throughout, especially the feather detail. The feather detail on this is just honestly amazing looking. Insane for how small it is, honestly. But on top of the incredibly highly detailed sculpt, you have some of the nicest paintwork that I think I've ever seen for any of the Raptors. Like, I did not realize just how visually appealing this figure was in hand until actually checking this version out, and now I'm completely sold on getting the 1/6 scale version, which I've wanted for a while, but now I think after having this one here, I might have the motivation to finally pull the trigger on that, because this thing is just fantastic as far as the coloration goes. Just so flashy, but somehow still looking so natural. I 100% could see this dinosaur being this coloration, and it would look completely normal to me. So incredibly well done as far as the coloration and the actual application of the paint. They always do a great job of adding in many different tones, but also applying dry brushing techniques and things of that nature to make sure that we highlight that feather detail and the in general detailing of the figure beautifully throughout, and they've done a fantastic job of doing that yet again. And then on top of that, we have amazing articulation, which is incredibly smooth, insanely impressive articulation for something this small. And again, that's something you always find when it comes to the beasts of the Mesozoic is incredible articulation. They have pretty much perfected that aspect of their figures, and you definitely see that really nicely here throughout this entire figure. And then on top of that, you again have the option to switch out the legs for a different positioning for the legs. You have the stand to give yourself all sorts of different positions and posability options for your Linheraptor. So overall, this is an amazing release yet again from the Beasts of the Mesozoic line. So make sure you head on over to the website that I will include in the link in the description to purchase yourself this amazing Linheraptor. David Silva sent this one over a little bit early for me to check out for you guys, but I do believe this is shipping currently, so make sure you get that order in, grab yourself this amazing Linheraptor, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.